Welcome to a CNY Wrestling podcast. This is part 2 of the 2016 to 2017 Class C previews.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another CNY Wrestling podcast. This one is part 2 of the 2016 to 2017 Section 3 Class C previews. Last video, we covered the first 4 teams in Class C, and now we are moving on to the next 4 teams. They are General Brown, Hannibal, Jordan-Elbridge, and Lowville. I don't want to waste too much time, really, so I say we get right to it with General Brown. Now, I think that there's no real way around it. General Brown took a big hit at graduation. However, I think we would all be kidding ourselves by thinking that General Brown did not prepare for the wrestlers that they lost, the losses they took. So despite the big hits to the roster, I think the Lions are still going to return enough talent and should bring some more in that weren't on the roster previously to definitely remain a top 5 team in Class C. General Brown has been one of the best Section 3 Division 2 teams in the last however many years. Senior Trevor Snow is a name that jumps out at you when you look at the roster, and that's because Snow had a phenomenal season last year in which he took second in both Class C and Section 3, and he left people hoping that he would earn a wild card to the New York State tournament after that runner-up finish in the section. That unfortunately did not happen, but Snow still returns to this season as a reasonable favorite to make the trip to Albany as a representative of Section 3. So while Snow was close to standing on top of the podium at sectionals, sophomore Matt McManaman was just trying to reach the podium, and McManaman nearly did that. He went 1-2. If he had won another match, he would have been all section. He did this at 113 pounds, and he also took third in Class C a week before sectionals. And he reached 25 total victories last year. I think he could be on his way to sectional contender status, a guy that you'll be looking for to place at the SRC Arena when the time comes. I'll be looking for him, along with Snow, as well as Patrick Colemill and Gavin Kovalik to make improvements for this, to have made improvements for this season and to return to lead General Brown. Kovalik was a Frontier League runner-up and third in Class C. That third in Class C was for the second straight year, and Colemill clipped the 20-win mark and qualified for sectionals as well with a fifth in Class C. And so there's 4 guys that General Brown brings back to this year that could do well for them. Now, for an example of why I'm confident in General Brown to bounce back from their senior losses with some new and even younger wrestlers, I look to Corey O'Connor. O'Connor was just a 7th grader last season, but he still managed to place at the North Country Invitational and the Class C tournament. He's already been to sectionals as just a 7th grader, so I have to think that O'Connor could be a guy to watch out for the next couple of years if he remains to wrestle for the Lions. And so I think to wrap up what is sure to be an interesting General Brown team, I think that they compare to Mexico from Class B because both teams are Section 3 powerhouses, and they have hosted some of the best wrestlers in the section and in New York State in recent years. Just last year, General Brown had 2 wrestlers in the state finals, one that won, one that lost. But both teams, General Brown and Mexico, also lost a good chunk of their roster to graduation. Good wrestling programs know how to bounce back and regroup, though, and I expect the Lions to do that this winter. So I'm going to keep them in the top 5 in Class C. I think they'll drop from where they were last year, which was second behind Adirondack, and I have them in 4th for my projected Class C rankings. But now we will move on to the Hannibal Warriors. Hannibal has recently been an underrated team, kind of, in my opinion. The Warriors have had some solid success in the last decade or so, really, and while it hasn't been as much in the last 5 years as maybe the 5 before that, Hannibal rarely goes through a season completely quiet. Last season was an up-and-down one for them, which is evident by their near 500 record in dual meets. And the season ended with a couple of quality losses to graduation from the roster, but they returned some great talent still, in my opinion. And for some examples, I look to Zach Williams, Evan Salmonson, and Ethan Straub. Starting with Williams, who's just a sophomore, he's Hannibal's most successful returning wrestler in all technicality because he's the only returning wrestler to have won a match at sectionals last year. He went 1-2 at 126 pounds. He, like I said, just a sophomore, he passed the 30-win mark and went 1-2 at sectionals. And it was actually for the second year in a row that he's gone 1-2 at sectionals. He's a 3-time class placer, a 2-time Liberty Patriot League champion, and I think he is possibly Hannibal's best pound-for-pound wrestler. Evan Salmonson is a senior, and he missed placing at the Class C tournament for the first time in his varsity career last season. Still, though, Salmonson is a former Liberty Patriot League champion, a 2-time Class C placer, and he really seems to be on the verge of breaking into contender status, considering that he seems to remain competitive against about just all levels of talent. He's rarely completely out of any match. Straub is also a senior that had over 20 wins last season. He anchored Hannibal down at the very bottom of their lineup at 106 pounds. All in all, I think that trio can keep Hannibal on a decently competitive level, as can a number of younger wrestlers that were on the verge of being mentioned in this preview. And I would like to mention one of them that could certainly make some more noise in the future, Zach Dunbar, who wrestled at 132 pounds and took 5th in Class C. So I think Hannibal may drop a little bit in terms of overall talent from, I believe it was the 4 seniors that they lost. I have them in the same spot in Class C as they finished last season. They were 9th at the tournament, and for my projected Class C rankings, I have them in 9th as well. Next up is the Jordan-Elbridge Eagles. I think at first glance, it may not appear that Jordan-Elbridge offers too much to the talent pool in Class C, but while they have had trouble recently matching up to other teams when it comes to dual meets and tournament points, I think despite the small and relatively young roster that they have, there are a couple of Eagle wrestlers that could make some noise in Class C. One of these wrestlers is Max Bongren, who is technically Jordan-Elbridge's most successful returning wrestler after he took 6th in Class C back in February. Bongren is a senior this year. I think this is his time to shine, to really put in a good performance this season. I think he can definitely do that considering the experience and wins that he had last season. Alex Parkalap may be the wrestler I'm looking to do the most for Jordan-Elbridge, though. He was a reported 14-7 last season, had a number of solid outings, took 3rd at the Liberty Patriot League tournament. So hopefully Bongren and Parkalap can remain competitive for an Eagle team that really needs them to be, and hopefully the Eagles can find some new Class C contenders among the rest of their roster. Marion Quigley could be an example of a guy elsewhere on the roster that has some talent. He is, I believe, going to be a sophomore this year, and he was a perfect 8 for 8 in terms of wrestled victories in pinfalls last year. So every time he wrestled and won, he won by pinfall. So that's an interesting stat. And he also placed at the Liberty Patriot League tournament. So I find myself feeling hopeful for Jordan-Elbridge. I think they can bump up a spot in Class C by the end of the season, because they were down in 12th last season at the tournament. But in my preseason Class C rankings, I have them in 11th. Our last team for this preview is the Lowville Red Raiders. Lowville had a pretty impressive season in 2015-16, and possibly the best thing about it is that they didn't lose too much of their roster to graduation this past summer. All 3 teams that we've mentioned took at least somewhat of a hit to graduation. Even Jordan-Elbridge lost a pair of pretty good wrestlers. Lowville, they lost 3 seniors and possibly their best pound-for-pound wrestler and former New York State qualifier, Conasteria. But 5 of their 8 Section 3 qualifiers could return this year to be back for another go of it this winter. And it starts with a trio of seniors in Caleb Mayer, Ryan Sproul, and Tyler Widrick. Mayer had a great season last year at 145 pounds. He earned over 25 wins for the second season in a row, was 2nd in the Frontier League and 3rd in Class C. Also, he did get knocked out in the pigtail round as sectionals after he drew the eventual 4th place finisher in the first round. But he did have a regular season win over the Section 3 runner-up at 152 pounds, which was the weight above his. So maybe with another draw at 145 pounds, he could have been making his way towards the box. Sproul really had a break. He was really the breakout wrestler for Lowville last season, it seemed. The only returning wrestler to have won a match at sectionals from this February, like Williams was for Hannibal. Sproul impressed with that fact, his 25-plus victories, and his 5 fourth-place finishes at tournaments throughout the season, including at the Frontier and Class C tournaments. Widrick did not place at the Class C tournament, but he has in the past, and he still managed to pick up some impressive victories and put in some solid performances last season. So there is a trio of seniors that I think is going to help Lowville succeed. Now, a trio of underclassmen that also highlight the Red Raider roster includes sophomore Daniel Mayer, sophomore Corey Woodward, and junior Isaiah Rose. Rose is one of Lowville's most successful returning wrestlers, and one of their more successful wrestlers in recent times. Really, he's a three-time Class C placer, including one-time champion from the 2015 tournament. He also took sixth at Section 3 that year, that being 2015, and last season he won over 30 matches, took fourth in Class C in the midst of what was a hellacious 132-pound weight class. And so he is definitely a guy to keep an eye on for this upcoming season. Mayer and Woodward anchored the lightweights for Lowville. Mayer was at 99 pounds, and he finished the year with a runner-up Frontier League finish and a third-place Class C finish. Woodward was at 106 pounds. He took third and fourth at those two tournaments, respectively. And he really visibly improved over the course of last winter. He started out a little slow and really picked it up at the end of the year. So, while Lowville may not stack up incredibly well in Section 3 Division 2 as a whole, I think they stack up very well in Class C. And I think they can pull off being a top 5 team in Class C for the second year in a row. So I have them returning to right where they were last year with 5th. That'll do it for part 2 of the Class C previews. I hope you enjoyed this one. We're going to wrap up Class C with the final 4 teams: Morrisville, Eaton, Onondaga, Sherburne, Earlville, and Skaneateles. That's who we'll be wrapping it up with. And then following that, we'll give you guys the finalized preseason Class C team and pound-for-pound rankings that I worked together with Section 3 Wrestler to create and provide those for you guys. So, like I said, hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you're looking forward to Part 3 as well as Class D. And we're getting ready to finish up these previews. And so to finish it off, I hope to see you guys next time.
Check out the CNY Wrestling forums to see interviews with Class C wrestlers Sean Banks of Adirondack and Nate Kronk of APW and Pulaski.